Hey, what's up, good people? My name is Jeff Frokatai, and you're watching the Frokatai Show. Excited 2025, manze mambo big, and spending so many different things. And today, the first guest is someone like I really admire, appear in the game, appear in the rap game. Someone also like we share lots of philosophy and theology with. Maybe introduce yourself to the people better, bro.
Well, what's up, everybody? I'm known as Kimya in many circles. I used to be a rapper and producer. Actually, I still am a rapper and producer, but I've changed kingdoms for now. And my other name is Clarence. So,
No
yeah,
doubt, no doubt.
no doubt.
So Kimya manze karibu.
Thank you.
Karibu Clarence.
Thank you.
You know, it's crazy. Like the first time I heard of you was like 20 years ago.
Okay.
20 years ago, like I was also heavily in the rap game.
Yeah.
I think around that time I battled guys like Kantai,
Yeah.
Yeah. etc. And I remember going to one studio in Langata by Douglas Wakihuri.
Yeah, Wakihuri Studio, Nairobi down.
The famous Kenyan runner, won a couple of gold medals in Tokyo.
Yes.
And he used to have a studio.
Yeah.
And in that studio, I remember like one of the guys recording, I remember Douglas mentioned to me, hey, there's Kimya who came to the studio. Yeah. Now Kimya, like I was a fan from from behind the scenes, just like in the rap circles. And also like you come from a famous musical family.
Yeah.
We'll get into that later on.
Get into that.
Yeah. So just tell us a little bit like about your upbringing. Were you born in Kenya? Did you grow up in Kenya or outside the country?
Okay. Well, yeah, I was born in Kenya.
Yeah.
A long time ago, but
Yeah.
we're not going to mention any years.
Yeah.
And so,
are you an 80s baby or 90s baby?
Somewhere in the middle.
Okay.
Somewhere in the middle over there.
Yeah.
So after I was born, my father had left the country before. After I was born, he left, or slightly before I was born, actually. So I went to join my father with my mother and my brother when I was about 6 months old.
Okay.
So we moved to the States, and we grew up there for the next couple of years. Okay. Most of my young adult life at school and stuff like that.
What's in the U.S.?
Yeah.
Which side of the U.S.? The west side of the U.S.?
It was West Coast initially. We stayed in California for many years. My dad worked for the Kenyan consulate in California, and then we moved to Oklahoma.
Okay.
Yeah, later on.
Yeah, that's a different culture, you know?
Yeah,
Most definitely.
It is.
Okay.
It definitely is.
Okay.
But I think it really exposed us to a lot.
Okay.
You know, we got to see and learn a lot, and you know, have our minds exposed to a lot about what the world and life is like in general.
Okay.
You know?
Well, do you remember, like, do you have early childhood memories, let's say, you know, from when you are six months old till, let's say, 5 years old? What was it like growing outside the country as a Kenyan? Did you experience any...
When I think about my memories, I think I usually start from a certain age. I remember one or two things that happened when I was 3, but prior to that, I don't remember anything.
Okay.
And then I think my memory started around 5 or 6, because I remember my sister being born vividly.
Okay.
And, you know, even when they came home with her, she was really light-skinned, man. And I kind of asked my parents, yo, they switched the babies on you?
Okay.
She looked a little bit white, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But, you know, she was just brand new, and so she was really light. But I remember my sister's birth, and I remember starting to ride bikes. And, you know, I'm a sports person. I love physical fitness.
Yeah.
And it started when I was a kid. I've always been energetic,
Yeah.
high motivation. So I used to ride bikes a lot, skateboards, motorcycles from when I was 8 years old.
Okay.
I learned how to drive when I was 9.
Okay.
And so, yeah, I've been...
Do you think, like, sometimes, like, growing outside the country or outside, do you think it gives you more exposure to try out some things? Because I think, like, as Kenyans, we are really a conservative society.
Yeah.
So even you'll find, like, most parents, like, if your child is doing some skateboarding or riding a bike, like parents are like, hey, usishike utaanguka wajua.
Yeah.
Do you think, like, sometimes being in a society whereby people are more open to experiment different things, like it makes the child be able to really get to explore the fullness of their potential as a young person?
Indeed. And, you know, we live in a global village. So the more exposure you have, the more you're going to be able to learn and experience different things.
Okay.
You know, being very conservative is kind of closing yourself from many ideas.
Okay.
Whether it could be just things for fun for kids. But yeah, it does close you to many ideas. And, you know, we live in a world of ideologies and just belief systems. So it did expose us to a lot. You know, when I was really I was 7 years old, I could ride to another city on my bike with my friends. a gang of 5, 6, 7 kids on bikes,
Yeah.
and we're like going to Naivasha, man.
Okay.
So like in Kenya, that wouldn't that'd be like,
That
whoa, hold
yeah,
on, like
it's true.
you're not even supposed to go like out of the neighborhood, or like if you go too far, it's like there's too much risk involved. You
Okay.
know?
Okay. So like we mentioned about your siblings a little bit.
Yeah,
And like one thing, like at least the public gets to know about your siblings, they're musical,
yeah, man.
or they're involved in the game. Also, you're an artist yourself.
Yes.
Were your parents musical? How did you guys kind of like get to fall in love with music at a young age?
Well, my parents were musical. My dad was a guitarist,
Okay.
and he used to play at a club that used to be downtown called Madhouse. You know,
Oh, Madhouse.
Florida
I know.
1000.
Yeah. So there was F2, and there was
Yeah,
Madhouse, which was like the sister of F2.
yes.
Yeah.
So he used to play in Madhouse back in the day, man.
Okay.
Like he was really well known too in the circles of back then. It was like live music, people playing like the
Yeah.
blues and just a version of rock, and the South American bossa samba type,
Okay.
live vibes. You know what
Yeah.
I mean, from back in the days in the '70s. This is the '70s, so they
Okay.
were like really emulating whatever was going on in the world,
And
and they were
Kenya was
beginning.
big musical in the 70s.
Oh yeah,
Because I
we
think
were
even like there
there.
were record labels like in Kenya, like distribution, like
Yeah.
I can't remember, I can't really
Yeah, I
specifically
think I don't
point
know
which
if it's
ones.
EMI, but
Yeah.
they had a distribution point in
In
Nairobi.
Nairobi, right?
They used to press records, vinyl,
Yeah.
and I don't, other than here, I think the only places they used to do that was Nigeria and South Africa.
Okay.
So,
Oh,
Kenya's always been a hub.
okay. Was your mom also musical?
Yeah, she was musical, but she used to just sing a
Yeah.
lot of gospel type of things, you know what
Okay.
I mean? Very busy in the church.
Okay.
And yeah, because my mom she was never really about that life
Okay.
before she came to know Christ.
Okay.
She got to know Christ at a young age, so she was never really involved in music in the secular world.
Okay.
Per se. But my dad was heavy.
Your dad. So like I know your dad is a pastor nowadays.
Yeah, man.
Was he a pastor? Like when did he become a believer and a pastor? And did you
Uh,
grow? Did you and your siblings? Okay, your siblings is Bamboo,
Yeah.
who is recognized also like as one of the as a legend in the rap game in
Yes,
Kenya,
yes.
and also Victoria Kimani, an amazing singer, Africa-wise, like doing shows in Nigeria, South Africa, also in the US, etc.
Yep.
So like when I just want to know like where did you guys get a passion for music? You said your dad was playing, samba,
Yes, playing the guitar. Yeah.
guitar, and just tell us more about that, please.
Well, my dad stopped playing secular music before I was born,
Okay.
but he always had records in the house.
Yeah.
From the old school guys like Benny King and these guys, Stand By Me, Clarence Carter. I
Yeah.
think he named me after that guy.
Clarence
matter of
Carter.
fact. Yeah. And so there was a lot of old school guys, and I used to listen to them, and my dad would play the guitar and play along with them.
Yeah.
And so I started getting into that at a young age.
Okay.
And I started playing the guitar. So I developed my love for music at a young age.
Okay.
And I started listening primarily. And then later on, I started playing the guitar. When I was 7 years old, I started playing the saxophone in school.
Okay.
So I joined the orchestra.
Oh, that's
I know how to
interesting.
read music. Yeah.
Yeah.
So music is really inbuilt. Like we really studied it. And I think for my little sister, she saw her big brothers doing music and just always listening to music. We always
Yeah.
had tapes.
Yeah.
We I think we lived in like one of the most interesting eras in like modern history.
Yeah.
Because we've seen the change from vinyl,
Yeah.
you know what I mean, to
Cassettes.
tapes,
Yeah.
to CDs,
Mm-hmm.
to mini disc players, Walkmans, and then MP3 players,
Yeah.
and then like the iPods and whatnot came out. And now like everybody's just listening on their phone. And now you don't even need to carry your music. Now
Yeah.
we're carrying virtual music. So like all of that dynamic change that happened
Yeah.
has happened in her lifetime. So she's like a prodigy of music, and she
Oh,
used to
that's-
take the best parts of whatever she could learn from her big
Okay.
brothers and her dad.
Okay. So like from a young age, you always knew like you'll be involved in music somehow along
Not
your
really.
adulthood. Okay.
Not really, but I always loved it.
Okay.
And I always knew I'd like to know how it's created and understand it.
Right.
So, like I said, I studied how to read music and how to write music and
Mm-hmm.
doing composure, like for an orchestra type of thing.
Okay.
And then I played guitar by ear. I never went to school. From there, everything else I learned was by ear.
Okay.
But then I never went beyond that point until later on when we started listening to rap
Yeah.
and hip hop music.
When
And then,
I'm interested to know, like, when in your teenage years, how
Yeah.
was it like? When were you guys introduced to rap music?
it was at a young age. I think I started listening to rap when I was about 12 years old,
Okay.
when Snoop and Dre dropped their first Chronic album.
Yeah. That's around
And
93 there.
yeah, around
Uh-huh.
93. And they just hit me like, man, this is what we grew up with. This is music reflecting what we see.
Yeah.
And we had never heard that up until then, because what was dominating the music industry was pop
Yeah.
and real commercial vibe music,
Okay.
because the record labels were few
Yeah.
and far in between, and they controlled every aspect of the music.
So around that time, like in your teen years, when you
Yeah.
got introduced to rap, were you guys in the country, in Kenya that time?
No, we were still in the States.
Or you were still in the US?
Yeah.
Okay.
So it really hit us. And there was actually a guy from where we grew up at. In fact, all these guys were from where we grew up at. We grew up like a stone's throw from where Snoop and Dre are from, you know.
Okay.
We lived right in that
Compton?
same neighborhood. Yeah, very close to Compton,
Okay.
very close to South Central, Long Beach. It's all a very small area. It's the
Yeah.
southwestern part of LA.
Okay.
You know, and LA is a county, pretty much like Nairobi. But like, let's say that this is an area that spans between Gong Road
Yeah.
and Wayaki Way. Like, it's not a very big area.
It's
close.
You can actually walk or ride a
You
bike.
can walk or ride a bike.
Okay.
Like, it's just around the corner.
Yeah.
So like, these guys were talking about all this stuff that's going on, and it's on a street corner that's
Yeah.
right around the corner.
Yeah.
So we
Were
could
you
see
were
it.
you that time, like, as a Kenyan in the US? Were you identified? Because like you'll find like places you mentioned, like South Central, Compton.
yeah.
The African American population is kind of like concentrated over there,
Yes,
if I'm not
they
wrong.
are.
Were you identifying just by growing in that environment? Were you identifying yourself more as a Kenyan, just in this neighborhood, or kind of like I'm just a black person in the US, and this is our music, a culture?
To be honest, being Kenyan was really foreign to my brother and my sister and I. We couldn't understand it. My dad used to remind us like, "Yo, you're not like these people.
Yeah.
You're a Kenyan." I'm like, "Yo." For as far as I knew, Kenya was as mysterious as Wakanda. Like, I used to ask him, well, what is Kenya like?
Yeah.
You know, what do they do? What do they dress like? What does it look like?
Yeah.
And he always had these stories that never resonated with us enough. Like, I would listen to it, but then I look back at my reality, it's something else.
Okay.
So as far as we knew, we were just American kids.
I understand. Was your father a pastor then?
He wasn't
Or he was
a
still
pastor
working
then,
like
but
in
he was
the
heavy in the
embassy,
church.
consulate? Okay.
He used to play the guitar in the church.
Okay.
Yeah, and he was still doing business and working at the consulate.
Okay.
But he did get into, at one point, him and a friend started a company selling Christian cartoons
Okay.
for kids.
Yeah.
It was like Bible stories, animated Bible stories.
Yeah.
In fact, that's what it was called.
Oh, wow.
And so they started selling them in malls in America.
Oh, animated that's in the 90s?
Yeah, man.
Okay.
Animated
He was
in the
ahead of his
90s.
game.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And this is like good animation, like Pixar type,
Yeah.
Disney type
Yeah.
animation back then. And it was really good. And they started setting up stalls in malls and selling it.
Okay.
And, just planting a good seed
Okay.
for Christianity.
All right. So moving forward,
Yeah.
like, who came to Kenya first? Was it you or Bamboo?
It was me, man.
Oh, it was you.
Yeah, I
how
came
how
first.
how was it like after kind of like growing up in the US for a while and then coming to
It
the
was
Kenya?
culture shock.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? But I loved it. And when they told me like, it's time for you to go home to find out more about who you are, as
Yeah.
I was becoming a young man. So I was like, okay, cool, man. I
Okay.
love that.
Was that in your high school age?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So I was like, I'd love to do that. Let's go. And so I came out here, and I started the process of learning who I really am.
Yeah.
And it's
How was your Swahili that time? Were you at home? Because I know like many Kenyan families outside the country,
Yeah.
you'll find like at least the parents are strict. So for example, if you're Kikuyu,
Yeah.
over here like you're speaking Kikuyu, Kiswahili, etc. But when you're going outside, it's like when you speak the language of that particular country. Was it like that where you grew up, or?
For us, it was primarily English.
Okay.
We never knew how to speak any other language.
Yeah.
We didn't learn it, and my parents used to use Kikuyu and Swahili as a backup
Yeah.
secret language that the kids don't understand.
Okay.
Like,
When they want to whoop you are behind, it's like
yeah,
you're...
they talk about what we did.
Yeah.
Like, hey, blah 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 blah.
Okay. Okay,
Yada yada.
that's interesting. So you came to Kenya like high school. Were you in a boarding school? Were you in a day
I
school?
went to a boarding school first.
Yeah.
And after a year of boarding school,
Yeah.
I couldn't hack the life. It was
Okay.
too difficult
Yeah.
and tricky.
Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah.
So anyway, I presume like now your family came later, Bamboo, etc.
Yeah, Bamboo
So
came first. Yeah.
Obama. So like I remember like in history, in Kenyan history, when it comes to music, at least the groups which are normally regarded as the godfathers of let's say urban music
Yeah.
is Kalamashaka. You know, I know you're also familiar with them, they're your peers.
Yeah, man.
But also like there's K-South.
Yeah.
And personally to me, K-South are my favorite rap group in Kenya. You know,
Gotcha.
that's Abbas, Dubis, and then Bamboo.
Yeah.
And I think like they started, if I'm not wrong, like around there, 97, 96, maybe if you know the history, you can
Yeah, it was back then. It was probably even as far back as 95 for them.
Okay.
Yeah.
So like them starting, and I know they were battling like in F2 eventually before now working with guys like Masimaira
Yep.
and then getting signed. How did it feel knowing that your brother has come in the Kenyan rap game and that he's starting to get accepted as an artist? And you know, like people are kind of like looking up to him, etc. How did it feel for you knowing that also like you had probably like your own rhymes then?
I think it was cool.
Did it inspire you? Did it be like I gotta craft my own personality?
Yeah, it was inspirational, but you see, at the time, I wasn't really interested in it so much. Not for commercial or like being serious about it.
Yeah.
But you know, we started rapping together, my brother and I.
Okay.
So me and Babu used to rap in F2.
Okay.
And we used to rap and compete against K South and K Shaka.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah, man. So at the time, you know, they would always win. Like if it wasn't K Shaka number one, it was K South number one.
Yeah.
And like we would come up close number 3, 4. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
In these sprints that people used to have on Sunday afternoons.
Yeah.
And it was because they could connect more with the people with language. But then there was also like we made an impact. Like guys were like, I mean, that's how we ended up being so close behind them because they would do like a top 10. We would be right behind them because they're like, who are these guys? Man?
Yeah.
Like they like straight out of the States and like just embracing hip hop like that,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
And so after doing it for a couple of weeks, my brother got to know the guys from K South.
Yeah.
And the rest is history.
Okay. and that's really interesting because even as you are mentioning that, you have just brought me back to the year 2009. Yeah. That's like years later.
Yeah.
And in 2008, 2009, if I'm not wrong, there was this battle, MC Africa.
Oh, yeah.
And MC Africa was something organized by Channel O, which was now kind of like getting the best rappers in Africa and then like crowning them. And I remember like the finals for Kenya, you were actually in the top 10.
Yeah,
because I remember you were there and you battled Calligraph Jones, if I'm not wrong. Yeah. There was Point Blank over there. There was Ecstatic. I remember actually being part of the people over there, kind of like chat. So like, did you? Which question did I want to bring? So, okay, so your brother come, like they developed their own unit.
Yeah.
You as Kimya also, like you started crafting your own path, just as a rapper, headbangers, also like you are a producer.
Yeah.
How, just maybe mention for a couple of minutes, how did that look like?
I think at the time, because we had just gotten out of high school, I think my brother started focusing on music, and for me, I was focusing on trying to make some money or something.
Okay.
So I wasn't focusing on making music, but I was like deeply listening to it. I used to go for their shows and stuff. Yeah. And so I started focusing on making money and learning trades. I got into a bit of sales and marketing.
There was a time you went to Tanzania. Was it in that era?
It was in that era, yeah.
What took you to Tanzania?
I met a guy, Buddha Blaze, right?
I know Buddha Blaze quite well.
Game, promoter, and just heavy in the music industry.
I was with Buddha Blaze in India.
Really?
That's at a point here.
Okay.
Many guys don't know that we've got so many mutual friends. It's just like in that diplomatic side over there. But that's for another time.
Yeah. So Buddha Blaze told me that there was a lot going on for young people out in Tanzania, and at the time I had been doing graphic design and website development.
Okay.
So I decided to just go out on a limb and go check it out.
Okay.
And I'm a traveler, man, and I'm about going places and finding out what it's like, see for myself type of thing.
Okay.
So I just decided to go one day, and I moved out there, didn't come back for 6 years, and that's actually where I started doing music.
Oh, you were in Tanzania for 6 years? Because like eventually your Swahili became so good. Sometimes I could listen to you, I could listen to Bamboo, and I could listen to Kimya, and your Swahili was more like coastal, Mombasa Swahili. And even like you could rap in English quite well, but also you could rap in Swahili quite well. So tell us more about Tanzania. Like normally it's not in Tanzania, there's lots of witchcraft over there.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know how true is it. Did you ever get to experience any just in the music world?
Yeah, they're deep in it, bro. They're really deep in it. They believe in those systems. Even the Tanzanian freedom fight
Yeah.
was born of witchcraft.
Okay.
It's actually called the Vita za Maji Maji,
Okay.
the Maji Maji Rebellion.
Rebellion. Yeah.
It worked for them the same way that the Mau Mau worked for Kenya.
Okay.
You know what I mean? It was a resistance, and it was their primary resistance.
Okay.
So they still held on to that culture. There was Ujamaa out there,
Yeah.
which is communism. So they're very close knit communities,
Yeah.
very close knit families.
Yeah.
So the culture carried on and on and on. And
Yeah.
up to date, it's still pretty heavy. You know,
Okay.
witchcraft is heavy. But there's a very heavy Islamic influence.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I met a crew out there, and they were like the Wu Tang or Uko Flani Mau Mau of Tanzania.
Nako Nako.
Na Kikosi cha Mizinga.
Oh, Kikosi cha Mizinga. Okay.
Yeah, but Nako to Nako is like an offshoot because like those were like, for a lack of better words, those were like our kids. Like they came up after us.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Kind of like how Mau Mau came up behind K Shaka.
Yeah.
They're the next generation,
Okay.
like just not necessarily very much younger, but
Yeah.
like right behind them.
Okay.
And they grew up listening to us, and like they were heavily influenced by us, and
Yeah.
they even came to our studios.
Yeah.
I produced for them
Okay.
a lot of their first music.
You know why I'm enjoying this interview is because
Yeah.
like many people don't know like just the fact that you've been able to, cause like when you're mentioning about like this, you used to rap with Bamboo.
Yep.
Later on, of course, like battling the Abbases, you know, Keshaka kind of like in F2.
Yeah.
And then like the way I just brought this conversation, later on you battle Calligraph,
Yeah.
who is kind of like one of the faces of the new generation.
Yeah.
But now going to Tanzania, you also had a history with the hip hop movement over there.
Yes.
I think that's something like really which has not been captured by many people.
Many people don't know.
Yeah.
And I think primarily what happened was when we first started with my brother, we were freestyling.
Okay.
We weren't writing our own lyrics.
Yeah.
We were like taking a couple of lyrics from famous rappers.
Okay.
But mostly we were just freestyling. That
Okay.
was when it was really hitting
Okay.
the streets in the States. So that's what we were doing. And when I went to Tanzania, I took that with me.
Yeah.
So I became a freestyle battle MC. Like I wouldn't write anything, but you tell
Hold
me you're
up,
a
hold
rapper.
up, hold up, hold up a little bit.
Yeah.
Was that time like, was your father a pastor then?
Yeah, he was.
He had become a pastor that time?
Yeah, by then he was.
So like when you're in Tanzania and there's this witchcraft over there,
Yeah.
and sometimes maybe like you're in the studio, maybe you could be smoking weed or you
Yeah.
could just be, you guys be haze a little bit.
Yeah.
And you know your spirit man normally tells you like, something over here is not right.
Yeah.
Nini, did some of the things maybe you learned back at home,
Yeah.
just like about the faith, about, did it come into play when you're in Tanzania just preserving you, or you are just like living, going with the flow?
I think to some extent it did.
Yeah.
Because like, you know, I've always been spiritual and respected and loved God.
Yeah.
But because I was kind of doing things that were out of the cultural norm for a Christian, I just held on to the fact that God loves me and I'm protected.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And there was a lot going on out there, man. And then I kind of, you know, we were on this path where we connected it to smoking weed. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? So we were like, for us, smoking weed was kind of spiritual because it was something that's natural. And we would just make claims that anybody on this witchcraft stuff, they can't touch us because we smoke weed and we're close to God and
Oh,
whatnot.
wow.
Yeah.
Was it more closer to Rastafarianism?
It could have
Or
been,
maybe
but you
just
see,
picking different aspects
just
from
picking
different
what we
faiths?
wanted from different faiths and just
Okay.
sticking to it. But I'll tell you what, like you see, just having that belief,
Yeah.
it did something because there was a lot of opposition. We changed the game in Tanzania. In Tanzania, there were 3 Kenyan music producers: me,
Ambrose?
Mandugu Digital,
Ambrose.
and
Shaki
his
was there
brother
also?
Shaki, yeah.
Shaki was in Tanzania for a while?
Yeah.
Okay, Shaki is an old pal of mine.
So like we changed the game so much that they were throwing everything at us. Like
Yeah.
they were sending all kinds of witchcraft. We used to find charms up in the studio.
Yeah.
They trying to get us arrested. They tried everything. Bro.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did you make good money in Tanzania? Like, just if you
yeah.
compare the entertainment scene in Kenya and Tanzania,
Yeah.
where do you think creatives can live off music?
I think both, you know, but I think that Tanzania has exceeded Kenya to some extent.
Yeah.
I think Tanzania really embraces that culture and they value their artists very
Okay.
highly. If I were to say in Kenya, I could have been the top 60, 70% type level artist.
Yeah.
But in Tanzania, we were in the top 100%. Like
Okay.
we were just the best rappers, best studio, best music production
Yeah.
in the country.
Okay.
You know, and so we got respected because of that. And when you come back to Kenya, your same value just kind of drops a little bit.
Yeah.
It's not so much because of what you do, but as the perception of the people here
Yeah.
is a lot more international. So
Yeah.
you have more competition here.
Yeah.
In Tanzania, they like the international. Yeah, they know about that, but they
But I think
that's over there.
because Swahili is their first language also.
Not even that.
Sorry.
It starts from communism and that
Okay.
ujamaa. See, that culture is about us over here in the community. Like I can't even walk out the door
Yeah.
and not say hi to my neighbor.
Yeah.
But in Nairobi, there's a bit more individualism.
It's
and
more
there's
capitalistic.
like more going on.
Yeah.
And I'm more exposed about what's going on outside of Kenya. That I might give you some time.
Or you're
but
an artist, okay,
you gotta
whatever.
buy it.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah, you gotta invest heavily to get people's attention in Kenya.
Okay. So fast forward, you came later on to Kenya. I remember you were in a production house that really charted quite a number of hits. So like later on, we said Mau Mau, Kalamashaka,
Yeah.
and then there was Uko Flani Mau Mau,
Yeah.
who now were guys from the coast, which was an offshoot of Mau Mau. And also you were involved with Uko Flani. Somehow you were producing a number of their songs.
Yeah.
Headbangers, I remember the studio you guys had in Westland, etc. Maybe for a couple of minutes, just share with the audience about that history, what stood out over there, what challenges did you guys face,
Okay, so I met those guys when I came back from Tanzania, and I had been working with Nako to Nako.
Yeah.
You mentioned them. One of those guys was Ibra the Hustler.
Yeah, Ibra the Hustler, one of my favorite artists from Tanzania, just as a lyricist.
Ibra was raw,
Yeah.
So when I came back to Kenya, I met up with Ibra. At the time, Abbas and these guys had a studio in Nairobi West. It was
I've recorded Duplex.
not Duplex,
Oh, Duplex, uh-huh.
but it was connected with Duplex a
Yeah.
little bit. It's called Underground.
Okay.
With Harry Kimani
Yeah.
and Mercy Myra, Abbas. So it was just a couple of artists.
Attitude.
Yeah, Attitude was
Yeah.
up in there. So they were just kind of doing their little thing over there. But since they were already busy and we weren't trying to get involved in that, we came to Duplex.
Yeah.
We did something over there because the guy from Douglas Wakihuru's studio, he was
Yeah.
at Duplex at that point. His name's
Okay.
Q.
Yeah.
You remember Q?
I think like with my far off memory.
Yeah, he was this producer at Douglas Wakihuru's studio. So we did some songs with him. Then we went to check out Uko Flani Mau Mau guys
Yeah.
in Dandora.
Yeah.
And so when we met them, the first song we recorded was an award-winning song.
Yeah.
And we continued to record a couple more songs with them,
Yeah.
which all are, they're pretty much Kenyan hip hop classics.
Yeah.
And not by my standard. We didn't do a lot of promotion for them.
Okay.
They drove themselves, won an award, and to date, those are the songs people still make reference to when they're talking about hip hop songs that made an impact. The Mau Mau are Ukuflani Mau Mau is split and it's dynamic. Mau Mau were the Nairobian artists who came up under Keshaka.
Yeah. So we are speaking about was Agano?
Yeah,
Agano.
Wakamba Wawili. He's
Wakamba
part of
Wawili.
Wakamba
But
Wawili.
Labala kind of associates also like with Ukoflani in a way, but he's Mau Mau.
Both, yeah.
Yeah.
Because he became part of Wakamba Wawili.
Yeah.
Yet he's from Mombasa, which
Yeah.
was Ukoflani.
Yeah.
But then he shunned Ukoflani and became Mau
Became
Mau.
Mau Mau.
So
So we're
there's
speaking
like-
Giuliani.
Yeah,
we are speaking
Giuliani,
the Kitusua,
Mashifta, yeah.
kinda, but Kitusua was there before,
No,
but
he's there
still,
because
he's still.
he was Mashifta.
Yeah.
And Mashifta was,
Jiwiji,
yeah, they
RIP.
were there. Yeah,
Yeah.
man.
Uh-huh.
So that's Mau Mau. Then Ukoflani was primarily from Mombasa.
Was from Mombasa, yeah.
And, they decided to come together. And that was the birth of the Wu-Tang of Kenya.
Wu-Tang, yeah.
And
And I know like Kunini, guys like those you have mentioned, also you were so, I remember even a point in my life, you were so passionate about hip hop. Like actually I believed in a cause, it was like a religion.
Yeah.
Like, like this a movement,
Yeah.
But do you, like in retrospect right now in 2025, do you have some regrets about the rap game, some of the things we believed and just about that culture? It was a culture of love, right?
Yeah.
But there are some things also which come along with it, like maybe trusting someone too much,
Yeah.
and in comparison, especially when you look at countries like Tanzania, over there the game is paying. Guys, do you think some of the things is wasted? That's question number one. And then question number two is like when you look at Bamboo, I think Bamboo one time like he kind of like went commercial a little bit, was let to compare and the likes. And also your younger sister, Victoria. Victoria got signed by a big label in Nigeria, traveling the world. Did you feel like maybe you are the black sheep of the family, whereby you're in the middle, you are still sticking with authentic hip hop, and maybe you're not seeing like the return of investment is the way it ought to be.
No, I don't think that aspect was very prominent in my life
Okay.
because first of all, I became a producer
Yeah.
in the process of just recording music and being frustrated by producers. So I became a producer, which meant that I grew from being just an artist and a
Yeah.
rapper to getting into the business side and being part of the facilitation of creation of music.
Okay.
So it wasn't so bad money wise. Like we were running the biggest and the best studios,
Yeah.
So when it came to logistics related to doing that, I was heavily involved in that. And you know what? When I look back at it, I think of myself as a giver. I was really giving back to society too. I was never. I think that one thing I didn't like very much about Kenyan music industry or the artists, where people were really selfish and were really gatekeeping the whole procedure and the process. But I wasn't about that. I was about breaking it open. So that's why you see I worked with artists like Uko Flani Mau Mau, and I was part of the team who brought Uko Flani to Nairobi. That's like
Okay.
9 guys,
Wow.
bringing 9 guys to the city, getting them an apartment, getting them food. Feeding 9 guys is
Yeah.
like having a lot of kids.
You're a giver.
These
Yeah.
are full grown men. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? So I was about facilitating and making something that was bigger than me. It wasn't about me. It was
Okay.
about creating an industry.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And truth be told, even if like we didn't make billions from it, we facilitated something that became a billion shilling industry. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? We pushed it to that level whereby nobody could say no anymore.
Yeah.
Because in my day they were still saying no, I don't know, no, these guys are rough, no, look at how
Yeah.
they dress. But now,
Right now,
the
when you look at guys like Ska, Wakadinali, etc.
yeah,
Like I think just like the way technology has really advanced, digital, etc. You'll find like those guys are really making millions from the music, still speaking in Sheng, rapping. But right now, like the way the system has been really laid up,
yeah,
people are able to earn from the music,
yeah,
while you guys are doing something similar or even kind of like better in your own respective ways.
yeah.
But the game was not ready that time. So the foundations, but you had to kind of like dig the foundations
Yeah.
for it to flourish. That's something to be proud of,
Yeah,
bro.
yeah, man, definitely.
Yeah.
And at the time when I was young, it might have been draining, but we were looking at the bigger picture.
Yeah.
And today, whether they consider it or they don't, these young artists have people who they need to thank.
Do you think the guys who wale chimba kisima they're
Yeah.
being thanked enough by the new generation? Ama the new generation like I don't need you guys. I'll just through TikTok. I'll trend. I'll go viral. I don't need you suckers.
I think there's a disconnect,
Yeah.
but it's not their fault.
Okay.
See, they can only show love to what they know.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? So you can't blame them. I think it's a systemic issue.
Yeah.
But it's about whether they know them. And I think that when they get to know them,
To know their history.
if they're really about music, they
Yeah.
know their stuff.
Yeah.
Like I met Scar, and Scar knows all of us, and he told me I was heavily instrumental in who he has become today.
Ska Cardinali, right?
Yeah.
And I think just like let me look at the camera and just tell you guys, like especially the new cats, just in the rap game in different genres. It's good just to know your history first and foremost, but also to thank the guys in the US, like someone like Nas. Nas actually has started a foundation which now is paying homage and giving respect to the old school MCs, the Rakims,
Yeah.
giving them like $1 million, just like you guys. If it wasn't for you, we wouldn't be here.
Yeah,
I think
no
in
doubt.
Kenya, like there are different ways of appreciating,
Yeah.
and that's the only way to make sure like the game keeps continuing. There's a culture of appreciating the guys who have gone before you.
Yeah, no doubt.
I am now Kimya Clarence, 2025, right?
Yep.
Hip hop, like me personally, I can say like hip hop like gave me a lot in life, but also as a result of hip hop, I was influenced. I became addicted to a few drugs, just because of that mindset. Like sometimes going to the studio, I cannot record a track without smoking A, B, C, D, right?
Yeah.
Were you also like that at a point? And maybe did some of the addictions you pick along the way affect you negatively, just as Clarence as a man in your progression? Maybe you can share a little bit about that.
No doubt. I think I grew up in an era where all the artists were heavily involved in drugs, you know what I'm saying? Or alcohol or something. Like the creative process, from what we knew, there were no artists who created without using drugs and alcohol. So I call it a trap because it's not reality, first
Yeah.
of all, but we all fell for it. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm talking out of top 1,000 artists worldwide,
Yeah.
the majority of them were heavy into drugs. Like it doesn't matter genre either.
Yeah.
If we talk about the Aviciis, or we're talking about pop stars, or
Yeah.
we're talking about rap stars,
Yeah.
everybody was heavy into
From the Kurt
drugs and alcohol.
Cobains to the
All these people,
Parks to
everybody,
the yeah.
Nirvana, everybody, rock stars, heavy metal.
Yeah.
You know, we just fell for this trap, and me, I think it's a spirit now when I look at it in hindsight, because it's a spirit that's trying to multiply itself.
Okay.
And you know, if I believe that it's all about drinking and doing this, and I make music and I talk about that in my music, then there's going to be a million kids who are going to go out and do the same thing that I did.
Yeah.
So if you become influential in how kids are destroying their lives, then it becomes a systemic and spiritual issue. It's not so much about
That is deep. I don't know if
what
they're
you're
ready for
doing.
this because
Yo,
like I was
it's
having a
deep.
conversation with a friend of mine the other
deep.
day, and we're just discussing about Eminem. Personally, I love Eminem as a
Yeah.
rapper, as a
Yeah.
lyricist.
Yeah.
I don't agree with his philosophy in some areas, like for example, like last year he released the death of Eminem, the death of Slim Shady,
Yeah.
and you can find like in that album there was a track like the Antichrist, like evil, like Lucifer.
Yeah.
These are really dark themes, right?
Yeah.
But you can find like Eminem being like the biggest rapper besides Drake.
Yeah.
There are 1,000,000+ people who will listen to that music,
him.
and they'll be like, this is cool. If Eminem kind of like is using this topic, let me also kind of like flirt with the dark side a little bit, etc.
Yeah.
And you and I know, like we're living in a spiritual world.
Yeah.
This is just part of the physical manifestation.
Yeah.
I really feel like when Eminem did the first album, which was called Infinite,
Yeah.
he had high expectations of taking his daughter to college, etc.
Yep.
He didn't really break the records. But later on, when he met Dre and he did the real Slim Shady, right?
Yes, Real Slim
The
Shady.
first album, I've forgotten
Yeah.
the name. Yeah,
Yep.
It blew records, but also he was dissing the mother over there. He was drugs, like really pro drugs, etc.
Yeah.
And maybe I think when we normally speak about selling soul, I don't think someone most likely goes to the devil like you're selling my soul.
Yeah.
But it gets to a point where an individual is just like, I'm ready to be used as a vessel. Like me, I'll get rich by any means
Exactly.
necessary. And now like the enemy comes and uses your mind just like you kind of like a vessel, because the enemy knows like if 1,000,000 kids this can be their mindset, etc.
Yeah.
That's a plus for my kingdom, right?
Yeah.
How big do you think the power of music is in our generation towards digressing people from the purpose God had orchestrated for them?
Well, I'll put it like this. In 2024,
Yeah.
the biggest preacher to me wasn't even a Christian.
Yeah.
It was in the beginning of the year, and it was Cat Williams. And Cat Williams
He was
said something
prophetic.
real simple.
Yeah.
He said there's two sides,
Yeah.
simple and plain. And everything you do in your life
Yeah.
is going to end up promoting one of these two sides.
Yeah.
In your personal life,
Yeah.
and you're going to influence other people too.
Yeah.
So when we were talking about media earlier,
He was the God side or the other side.
Or the other side.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And when we talk about that other side, we're talking about the forces of darkness. You know what I'm saying? When you mentioned witchcraft earlier, that's what it is. Witchcraft is manipulation of forces of darkness.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And Christianity is being connected to the forces of light.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's not manipulation, and it's not religion.
Yeah.
In fact, religion is a manipulation of true faith in God.
Yeah.
You know, and it's man-made. It's what we tend to want to do with our
please God
your
now.
relationship with God.
Yeah.
To kind of actually also control people.
Yeah.
Like religion was trying to get you to have a relationship with God by the terms that I'm saying.
Yeah.
Not by the way God says.
It's
you know
true.
what I'm saying?
It's
So
true.
like everything you do becomes a form of broadcast. Now, even the word broadcast and the way media uses it,
Yeah.
broadcast was an old way of planting seeds. Like a person used to plant seeds on the farm and have a handful of seeds and they would throw it out like
Yeah.
this. So they would try to plant seeds in a 10-foot area, and they would walk for 100 feet in one direction, casting seeds like that.
Yeah.
And that's the same thing broadcast is. Like when you're doing that music, and this is something that bugged me when I was making my music. Like I couldn't be out there talking about sex, drugs, and alcohol, even though I was doing them,
Yeah.
because I knew this music is misleading these guys. This isn't all that life's about. This is a part of it. It's a part of it that everybody goes through, but
Yeah.
it's not everything, man.
It's not everything, yeah.
If I keep talking about it in my music, I'm gonna misguide someone to think that that's the most important part of life.
Yeah.
And that's not what it is.
The facade.
So I was careful about what I was trying to say, if we look at the American music industry, guys are glorifying drugs, guns, and
And it's
alcohol.
crazy because, like, even like when you look what's happening recently with Puff Diddy,
yeah.
I mean, Diddy is someone who, like, I know, like, for anyone who grew up in the '90s, his music impacted us one or the other. When you're going clubbing, you listen to a Biggie track,
yeah.
112, Mess, etc.
Yeah.
And it was good music. And these are the guys we looked up to. But later on, you can discover it's just like a character they created. They were battling their own demons behind the scenes.
Yeah.
I'm not here to judge. I'm praying the best for
Yeah.
everyone. You know what I'm saying? But I think, like, without God being the center of whatever you're doing, it's so easy for the dark side to influence the decisions you are making, what you're creating, etc. You just become a vessel of unleashing something that distracts people from the purpose. You know?
Like when we came out, hip hop was taking young black urban men off of the streets
Yeah.
and putting them in industries that could make money for them,
Yeah.
that would protect them,
Yeah.
and that would enable them to create families and continue the continuation of society. But now hip hop has turned into something that's teaching kids something. It's glorifying something that those kids don't immediately see in their environment. So because they want to get it so bad, they're willing to do anything.
And now, like, if you speak about God, things are changing in 2025. But 2-3 years ago, like, anything but Jesus. If you mention Jesus in hip hop, it's kind of like your work. Like this ain't part of the culture. And so, like, it will make a young artist who God has given a purpose and a gift and a talent to grow up. Maybe even some of them grew up in the church. But now when they're like, for me to make it in the game, I have to chuck any light side out of the picture. So for me to kind of like, so I think it's up for guys like us who have been tested both sides to be able to tell the youngins, you can still, this talent that you had, God put it in you. You can still use it for His glory without being churchy necessarily, but just acknowledge who gave it to you and use it for good instead of using it for evil, you know?
Yeah, I mean, with your music, you're just you're doing that broadcast. You're like any media station or television.
Yeah.
You're going to influence a lot of people, and you got to think about what do you want to influence them, or how do you want to influence them. And when you have kids, how do you want people to influence your kids? Because you're not going to always be there to protect
I love it. Guys watching this podcast, probably, like, not everyone is a musician or a creative, but everyone is an influencer.
Everyone
And we can say that confidently in 2025 because everyone has got a social media platform. And in the social media platform, like, you don't know the reach. At least everyone can reach 1,000 people plus, right?
Yeah.
Mainstream media worked in such a way that they were setting the narratives. So you can find the CNN, the Fox News, the MSNBC, the KBC, KTNs, etc. Unless you are able to own such an entity, then you'll be like, okay, this is the narrative we are pushing politically for this year. You can make whoever is the president to appear to be a demon, and whoever, like, whichever is, you can use it for your benefit. In the US also, like, for example, today Trump, for the guys who are watching this, is 20th of January 2025.
Inauguration day.
Inauguration day in the US. 4 years ago, guys thought Trump was the reincarnation of Hitler. If you vote for him, if you are black, you are a coon, you are everything, etc. Right now, things are changing because of social media. Because people went to, Elon Musk bought Twitter X. And guys were like, okay, whatever CNN or Fox is showing me, it's not the reality, because now you could hear firsthand from whoever the authority, if it's a politician, like what they're saying and seeing where it has been edited, cut, etc. TikTok was being bought in the US the other day. Like, they were shutting TikTok off yesterday.
They banned it.
But right now, like, Trump has said, okay, TikTok, like, we'll negotiate a deal where TikTok will be there, The guy owning Facebook, Instagram, Mark Zuckerberg. He admitted last week, like, he was censoring a lot of stuff 4 years ago, pushing agendas like alphabet community. When you go over there, you'll always see the rainbow colors, etc. And I think sometimes when you want to speak truth, you're like, I'll be the minority. People will look at me as a bigot, homophobic, etc. Right? And I really feel like right now with social media, you can speak your conviction and in a loving way without judging people, but speak what you represent, because you're a media house. You don't know how many people are listening. Maybe just as someone who has done media, studied media, what can you advise the person watching over there? How they can be media houses and plant the right seeds in this new generation?
Well, everybody is involved in trying to form the minds of society right now. You mentioned Mark Zuckerberg. They were influential in the Kenyan election in 2013, along with Cambridge Analytica.
Yeah.
Right now, everything is done online. I'm a digital marketer. That's what I focus on right now.
Okay.
Like I've kind of taken all the knowledge I have from back in the day and I'm using it for something else.
Yeah.
And that's digital marketing. And in digital marketing, everybody influences someone in one way or another. Like all of marketing and advertising is we took like half of their budget into digital marketing because you're reaching people and you're you're affecting their mindset, and you're influencing their, you're planting a seed. If it's for buying a product, or it could be about your political beliefs, or it could be about who you think you are. People, a lot of young people are in an identity crisis. They don't know who they are.
Yeah.
Africans are losing their culture.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? Americans been lost their culture. They don't even think they're African.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I mean,
Yeah.
the black ones.
Yeah.
Black Americans, they shun the idea like of Africa. They don't even think, like, they're just so far gone.
Yeah.
That it's really weird. But it's because of ideas we were given. So, like, just watch your ideas, seek knowledge, seek truth.
Yeah.
And try to find out who you are. You know what I'm saying? And spread and share that information. Always seek growth, because out here there's a lot you could get lost in.
Yeah.
There's a lot of ideas. You got to watch your ideas.
Yeah.
And who influences you, because that becomes your ideology. That becomes what you believe in.
Yeah.
And whatever you believe in starts to become your reality.
Yeah.
Like, for me, I've had to restructure that reality several times in my life. You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying? And it's necessary. So you got to restructure that reality. Find out who you are. If you need to go see your grandparents, if they're still alive, go see them. If they're not still alive, find out from other people who know find out more about African culture.
Yeah.
I found out I came here to find culture shock and all of our differences. But the more I've been studying African culture, most of us were one people.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? There's been the great African migrations since the 1400s, bro.
Yeah.
And we don't even have our own books about it.
Yeah.
There's like white people who wrote books in 1350,
Yeah.
1499, books about West African migrations to East Africa,
Sure.
And the cultures and the similarities and the differences.
It's true.
A lot of my culture, I'm Kikuyu, my people, some of my people came from Cameroon, bro.
Yeah.
Come to
No
find
doubt.
out, you know what I'm saying?
No doubt.
And a lot of the Bantu people, it was just a migration of people would come somewhere.
It's
Some
true.
would stay, some would go. Some would stay all the way down
true.
to South Africa, man.
It's true.
We
It's
got Zulu people, and they still call meat nyama.
No
So we're the
doubt.
same people, but people are teaching us our differences.
I know.
You know what I mean?
I think like many guys will be watching this just from Africa, especially the urban youth demographic.
Yeah.
How can we say, like, and you have told us, or you told them kind of like we can redefine the narrative that the Western media has placed on Africa.
Yeah.
Like right now with social media, we can really redefine and create a new Africa.
Yeah.
And one thing I think we both can say, like, is it's good if Christ is part of the center of that as the foundation. But someone could be watching over there and say, like, Christianity is a white man's religion.
Yeah.
How can you, just in conclusion, say like why Christianity is not necessarily a white man's religion, and it's an African can relate with it and still merge it to the identity of who they are?
So for the Christianity is a white man's religion. I've heard that from a lot of my Rasta friends, and the Rastas, they're really deep on Christianity and loving Jah, but they want a separation of this white man because they felt like it was connected to slavery and it's not part of them. But in reality, Christianity came out here in the days of King Solomon.
Yeah.
King Solomon had a son with an African queen from Ethiopia.
Sheba?
Yeah, Queen
Okay.
Sheba. And she came back with all of the knowledge and written down teaching and training of the Word of God to Africa back then. And there were African scholars who used to go to Israel back in the day to study, you know what I'm saying? And so it was
there's the
there.
Ethiopian eunuch even in the New Testament.
Exactly, the one that Philip was running next to in his chariot. And these guys were seeking that knowledge way back in the day. There's Ethiopian Bibles that have black people in them.
Yeah.
And they're hundreds of thousands of years old.
Today, when we were coming this side to this studio, there was the Ethiopian church, which actually they are about. I think they were celebrating their Christmas in January.
Yes.
So it's so like there's so much rich history, even like in the Christian faith in Africa. And I think many people have got it came with colonizers.
Yeah.
That's just like 200 years ago, 100 years ago.
Yeah.
But in the first century,
We were there.
the word of God was over here. And I think like even to me personally, it doesn't matter if Christ was black, white, Jew, etc.
Yeah.
It's like this man came, who is God in man, and came with the truth, with love. I'll just encourage you, get to know more about him, get to know about what he said. Does it apply in 2025? Personally, I believe, it does.
Yeah.
Does apply
First
to
of
me.
all, we got to talk about another day. We'll come back and talk about who the black Jews are and what their influence on Christianity was, because they were traveling the world taking Christianity to Europe in a time where Europe was pretty much pagan. You know what I'm saying?
No doubt.
So we're one people globally. We are one people. And there's a lot of confusion as to causing identity crises,
Yeah.
who we are, who we're not,
Yeah.
even in Christianity. Like, all this division is just a tactic to try to bring separation. But at the end of the day, we're one people,
Yeah.
and there's one God. You
It's
know what
true.
I'm saying? So we should always seek to find out that unity, find out what is common. Don't look for the differences. Everybody focuses on the differences.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Let's look for what's common between us. Let's look for that common identity. Let's look for, who God says we are,
Yeah.
not who somebody who may not be sure who they are says that you are.
No
You know
doubt.
what I'm saying?
No doubt.
Yeah.
So, in conclusion, I think any last word you want to give to the people over there? Someone who grew up listening to hip hop music, these are the idols. What, just any last word you want to give
Well,
someone watching in Africa or even beyond the continent?
do you make music? Be creative. I don't think you need to fall into a trap of making music and believing that you need to be under the influence of drugs and alcohol in order to be creative. You can do it without it. That was a trap I fell into. And if you want to take it from me and other OGs like me, you don't have to do that. You can find another way. There's some forums that we're part of that are teaching young artists how to do music in a clean environment. We want to open up studios to create that culture where you can create clean music. And also, try to stay out of addiction. Addiction can break your life. I thank God that I got out of it, and you can get out of it. Addiction isn't the end of your story. You can get out of anything. You can get out of addiction. You can overcome it, and you can restructure your life and become whoever you want to be. You can renew your life 1,000 times. You could fail 1,000 times at 1,000 different things you do in life. And the beauty of life is you can just wake up one day and say, okay, I tried that. That was nice. And you can decide who you're going to be tomorrow. So change the way you think, and you can always find a way out. There's always a way out. Never give up. You know what I'm saying? Suicide's not an option. Look for people who care about you. Look for people who can reach out to you. And yeah, steer clear of addiction, because addiction kind of pushes you into this corner that where you're isolated and you're by yourself. And that's the plan of the enemy, is to get you by yourself and isolate you to where you won't be able to reach out to somebody who can help you. You know what I'm saying? And there's always someone who can help you.
Yeah,
There's
Kimya.
always a way out.
Thanks, bro.
Thanks, bro.
Been real.
I appreciate you.
It's a
Bro.
pleasure, man. Like,
It's a
you
pleasure,
just
man.
being coming
No
over here and
doubt.
sharing your wisdom nuggets.
No
Yeah.
doubt.
Hopefully, it will also get to host you later on.
I
But
love
much
that.
love, man. 2025, may you accomplish everything that God has purpose for you.
You too, man.
In
No
Jesus'
doubt.
name, man.
Amen.
Salute, guys.
Salute.